And belling up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar, my name is Craig Toth, host of Minor League News and Brews, also one half of Bucs in the Basement, along with my good friend Chris Lanuti. Welcome back, and welcome to anyone that has not listened to this before. But I wanted to start off today's episode with kind of addressing some things that have been posed to me, some questions concerning why I, quote unquote, and it's very loose, quote unquote, cover the Pirates minor league system, and then also to address some comments concerning the fact that people believe that people within the Pirates, I guess, minor league media, bloggers, podcasters, whatever it may be, kind of push a narrative of prospects. And I understand as a Pirates fan, because I am also a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, first and foremost, that, I mean, there has been a lot of times out there where, prospects have come up and, not performed as well, or maybe not even made it to the major leagues after receiving, a decent push or a decent publicity within the system, within rankings. And these are things that I just kind of want to sit down and address at the beginning of today's episode. I am a baseball fan. Not just a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, even though that is, my number one fandom. I just love baseball. I assist in coaching my son's his coach pitch team, which is basically 8U. I also assist with my son's Little League team, 12U. I've been coaching the youngest, since he was in T-ball, and I just enjoy baseball. I could watch a Little League game. I watched the Little League World Series. I could go to a high school game. I've taken my kids to the local high school to see, them play a baseball game. I love college baseball. I'm a West Virginia Mountaineers baseball fan, have been for years upon years upon years. My family, if you've listened to this show before, read anything that I've written, probably seen me out and about, follow me on social media, Instagram, whatever it may be, you'll see pictures, comments, quotes about me and my family and how wherever we go, we take in a minor league baseball game. My family just loves them. This past year, we've taken in an Erie Seawolves game, a Tennessee Smokies game. As always, an Altoona Curve game. Try to make it out to Indianapolis at least once a year. Usually go to a Bradenton Marauders game. When the West Virginia Black Bears were the short season low A team for the Pittsburgh Pirates, we would go and catch at least one of those games. Independent leagues with the Washington Wild Things. It's just something that I enjoy. It's something that has been enhanced because of what my family has come to enjoy. If they didn't like it, I probably maybe wouldn't be doing this show. I maybe wouldn't be going to as many minor league games, but it just so happens that it's something that we enjoy doing as a family, and I love watching the minor leagues. I have since my high school days, and even before that. I've told the story previously about how my neighbor growing up, her boyfriend, was drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers and moved throughout their system, and just finding that enjoyment in baseball. But I do understand the other side of the coin of Pittsburgh Pirates fans who may not be as invested in the minor league system, or maybe a little bit jaded towards the minor league system due to the fact that it always kind of seems to be that, there will be this next prospect coming up who will perform well, and this next prospect coming up who will impact the future, change the team. I mean, you could come back with, the thing that, every Major League Baseball player was a prospect at some point. Some of them were very highly touted prospects. Some of them were not on any of these top 30 lists, top 100 lists that people keep their eyes on. They don't really help the team become, the number 1, 2, or 3 farm system in all of Major League Baseball. But I kind of do see how people get frustrated with this type of, I guess it would be like they said, I think I said earlier in the show, is just a little bit of a narrative. And to kind of like look at this narrative a little bit, I went back and looked at, 3 players who have broken out, quote unquote, broken out over the past few years, as well as the prospect rankings, the top 30 Pirates rankings over at MLB Pipeline, just to kind of see like where these frustrations come from and kind of an understanding of, the common fan, I guess it would be, and where they're saying, well, we hear about this guy and then he kind of, drops off a map. And this kind of came to me a little bit because of, Luis Ortiz's surgence throughout the system last year, jumping up prospect rankings, and then coming up to the majors this year and struggling when he went back down to AAA. And then based on, the outing that he just had yesterday, I'm recording this on Thursday, 8/24, probably won't get to your ears until the normal drop date of Saturday morning, but just what was in my thought process, like throughout, building the outline for this episode. So the players that kind of came to my mind here as breakout prospects and what they've done, since they've become breakout prospects, as to why people kind of just become very cautious when people mention, prospects that may be doing well, maybe performing well, especially in the lower minors, even in the upper minors, until they actually see them perform well, at the major league level at PNC Park. And the first one of this, because, I mean, if anybody knows, I've been a Pirates fan, been a minor league baseball fan for much, much longer, but Chris and I started doing the Bucs in the Basement show in 2019. 2020 is tough to gauge within the minor leagues just because there wasn't a minor league season, but at least as far as the breakout prospects go, one of the first ones that came to mind for me was in 2021. Matt Frazier started out in Greensboro, slashing .314, .401, .578 with 20 home runs, a great K to walk ratio in my opinion, 74 Ks with 43 walks in 349 plate appearances, came up to Altoona, got 149 plate appearances, definitely didn't show as much power because, as we all know, when people leave the South Atlantic League, specifically, their home in Greensboro, the power numbers drop a little bit, hit 3 home runs over that. If you extrapolate that out, I mean, you maybe get up to about 7 or 8 home runs in the same time that he hit 20 home runs in Greensboro. Slashed .288, .356, .492. I can tell you I was there on opening day in 2022. I was excited to see what Matt Frazier could do for his team. Believe he had hit a home run that day. I think Liover Peguero also had a home run. But during that season, across 480 plate appearances, slashed .219, .284, .333, 6 home runs, 114 strikeouts, and 33 base on balls. And you're hoping that maybe that was just, kind of like a little bit of a fluke of a season, that he would bounce back more in 2023. And Matt Frazier's a name that's kind of, fallen by the wayside a little bit. And unfortunately, justifiably, because, for this season, he has 408 plate appearances as of this recording. He's slashing 249, 324, so getting on base a little bit more. Has a little bit more power, 358. But, he's struck out 83 times, walked 36 times, and has 7 home runs. So a little bit disappointing in that. And then jumping ahead to 2022, the new, the cool, the fresh name, on the top of, tips of everybody's tongues was Matt Gorski. Matt Gorski also started out in Greensboro like Matt Frazier had during the previous year, slashing 294, 377, 754 with 17 home runs, only striking out 39 times, walking 17 times in 146 plate appearances. Once again, once there was that jump to Altoona, and this was, prior to the, catastrophic hamstring injury that he suffered that kept him out for the majority of the rest of the season. In Altoona, slashing 277, 354, 498 with 6 home runs, 47 Ks, 15 base on balls on 12 more plate appearances than he had in Greensboro, totaling 158. Now, everybody would say, in 2023, we have seen, possibly a little bit more power. I would argue that, maybe it's even dropped a little bit, just because everybody would say, well, he has 15 home runs. Well, he also has 351 plate appearances as opposed to 158. We see his slugging drop from 489 to 426. We see his on-base drop from 354 to 294. And then we also see the batting average drop from 277 to 237. So people have been asking me and would ask me, maybe who could fall into this category. And this is not to say that Matt Frazier or Matt Gorski will never succeed. I will always root for every single one of our minor league players to succeed. But somebody said, who could possibly, has maybe been showing up, maybe had flown under the radar a little bit prior to that, and who I'm, maybe worried about that people are putting, a little bit too much emphasis on during this season and may end up being disappointed. And it just kind of falls into, where people are saying that, people are mentioning, what happened to Matt Frazier? What's wrong with Matt Gorski? The guy for this year for me would be Jack Brannigan. And I love what Jack Brannigan's done, especially on defense. It's hard not to like what we've seen on offense. But starting back last year, in his first year in Bradenton, slash 211, 330, 337 with 3 home runs, 28 Ks and 15 walks in 112 plate appearances. Started in Bradenton again this year, slashing 253, 398, 451 with 7 home runs, 54 strikeouts, 32 walks. So basically, almost walking upwards of what he was striking out in 201 plate appearances. Of course, once he goes to Greensboro, and I know that this is something that I've warned people about, other people warn people about, but it's the Greensboro Grasshoppers effect. I mean, that's just pretty much what it's becoming. In 113 plate appearances, he has 11 home runs. He's slashing 313, 363, 697. The one thing I would look at is that he has struck out 37 times while only walking 9 times. And I kind of just want to see what he could do in Altoona to see. And it's tough to see, if this is real. Yes, he's hot. Yes, we're seeing it all over social media. But I could say the same thing of like what happened with Matt Frazier, what happened with Matt Gorski, during their time in Greensboro. And then once they get regular playing time in Altoona, stuff starts to kind of even level out, or in some instances crater a little bit. And it's just something that I'm like lining myself up maybe for, some disappointment, but also showing that I understand why people get frustrated when people say, well, when you're looking at depth charts and you're saying, well, you have these guys in the outfield right now, but you also have Matt Frazier and Matt Gorski, as late as last year, saying that they could be pushing towards something in 2024, and then we see what happens in 2023, and it's hard to see them really making a push towards the major leagues. And that also got me thinking, as I previously mentioned, about prospect rankings. And with this one, I did go back to 2019, when this show, the mother show of Minor League News and Brews, Bucs in the Basement, started. And I was looking at the top 10 prospects. And right now, out of the top 10, Mitch Keller's in the major leagues at number 1. Keep Ryan Hayes is in the majors at number 2. Travis Swaggerty has been DFA'd and is now with the Chicago White Sox. Ono Cruz has been on the IL for the majority of the year, and probably just from what I'm hearing now and what's come out, everybody's reporting from Tom Tomczak that it could be for the rest of the season. He's at number 4. Cole Tucker just DFA'd by the Colorado Rockies. Kevin Kramer, not even sure if he's still in professional baseball in any way, shape, or form at this point in time. Cal Mitchell has kind of just, I guess it would be using a Tom Tomczak thing, he's kind of plateaued in AAA and shown that he could possibly be one of those, I hate to say it, but like quad A players, because Cal Mitchell's a guy that I saw back in 2019 down in Bradenton and saw a lot of hope for him. Yes, I mean, in some ways, I had kind of pegged him as possibly being like one of the success stories from the minor leagues. And in some ways, I guess he, not to, say that I'm like trying to twist it a little bit, but he may have been, because he actually did make it to the major leagues, did not experience any success there, but actually made it, because a lot of guys don't make it the whole way up from, what would have been high A at the time, the whole way to the major leagues. Going to number 8, we have Brian Reynolds, obviously the major leagues, obviously going to be with the Pirates, for an extended period of time here. Kevin Newman, traded to the Cincinnati Reds at number 9. Luis Escobar at number 10. So I kind of see where these people's frustrations come from. And it only grows as you look at, 2020. Once again, Mitch was still on there, Cabrian. O'Neill at number 4, a new person entering that with Quinn Priester. I mean, everybody's kind of down on Quinn right now because of how he performed in the major leagues. The book's not written on him just yet. At number 5, you have Liover Peguero. Liover is, we're trying to see if he's going to be a regular contributor at the major leagues. But then once you go 6 through 9 again, Swaggerty, Brennan Malone, Sammy Ciani, Jared Oliva, 10, Cody Bolton, now been transferred to, being a reliever as opposed to, being a Major League Baseball player, Major League starter at this point in time, or even a minor league starter because of all of the injuries. So there's the top 10 for there. You go to 2021, Cabrian. Nick Gonzalez enters the conversation after being drafted. And once again, seeing that, he experienced some success within the minor leagues, has at least moved up to the majors, but now is back down with AAA. O'Neill at number 4, Peggy at number 5. But then, once again, you get the 6 through 10 of Hudson Head, Tanaj Thomas, Brennan Malone, Travis Swaggerty, and Cody Bolton. In 2022, I mean, feels like it's going to be like a little bit of a repeat again, but it's Nick Gonzalez at number 1. Henry Davis, who, is now on the IL, has been used primarily in right field. Drafted as a catcher. I know that I can't get back on that horse again of just because that's where somebody was drafted in Major League Baseball, that's where they'll end up. But that kind of seems to be the sentiment within people, that if you're drafted as something, that's where you should play. But book's not written on him yet. He's at number 2. Cruz at number 3. Priester at number 4. Rowanzi Contreras, the man without his velocity, at number 5. You got Peggy at 6. You got Endy at 7. And at this point in time, you've got Solometo, Chandler, and the aforementioned Matt Frazier at 10. 2023, obviously, book has not been written on any of these guys yet. Skeens, Tamar, Endy, Jared Jones, Solometo, Priester, Gonzalez, Peggy, Chandler, and Thomas Harrington. But for me, kind of the thing that just keeps popping into my head here is going back and looking at 2019 and seeing, just the number of names, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names that I've kind of crossed off the list at this point in time as to players that, will no longer be considered to even have a chance of being contributors at the major league level. And it's kind of disheartening. And in some ways, 2020, I have 4 names crossed off that list. 2021, I have 4 names crossed off that list. And it's just kind of like, I can see where people's frustrations come from, just because, how can we say that in, 2027, 4 years from now, that I look back at this list in 2023, God willing, still doing the Minor League News and Brews podcast, but how many of those names, will I have crossed off that list? In order for this team, this organization, whatever it may be, to be successful, you pretty much have to have less names crossed off than are in, than half of the top 10. If you have more than half of the top 10, unless you have some, the other 4 are absolute legit everyday all-stars, every year all-stars, I should say, then it's kind of going to be hard to say, that this team has been successful. And I kind of makes me think, just on the fly here, of something that, I think it was Zach Buchanan, formerly of The Athletic. We had him on this show previously. I think it was him that had brought up the number of minor league championships consistently that the Tampa Bay Rays had either been fighting for or at least won, and showing how that it doesn't maybe just automatically equate to success at the major league level, but my God, it sure doesn't hurt if you are winning championships throughout your system. I mean, people will say, minor league championships don't matter. I would say that they matter to those players, they matter to those coaches, they matter to those communities. But if you're just a Pittsburgh Pirates fan and not a fan of, any of the minor league organizations within, the Pittsburgh Pirates umbrella, maybe they don't. But just thinking back to this, 2021 was such a positive year, just because the Greensboro Grasshoppers had gone to, their championship game and took it to the final game and didn't end up winning it. But the Bradenton Marauders were 2021 champions. And then looking at the standings this year, and once again, I don't see Indianapolis, anywhere near in contention. Altoona, who everybody knows is my favorite, minor league baseball team, kind of teetering on whether or not they would be in contention, but, obviously didn't win, the Eastern League first half, but not like really pushing for that championship, with the only teams that are really doing that, at least in the second half, being Bradenton, and not even the second half, but just in their league, in the Florida Complex League. So we can say, like, okay, we have a great Florida Complex League team, and the Bradenton Marauders are back on top again, which is great for the Marauders. It's great for their manager. It's great for the city of Bradenton. But if that doesn't start to trickle up, it makes me start to worry a little bit. And I would like to see an Eastern League or International League championship come along here in the next couple years. Because, I mean, if you look back to when the teams were starting to push for, actual improvement at the major league level, we were winning, or at least in the vicinity of winning a championship in our AA and AAA organization. So I can kind of see where people's frustrations come from. Believe me, not going to stop me from doing this show. Not going to stop me from being a minor league fan, but I mean, it's just definitely, it has given me stuff to think about. And I didn't want to, I try to give people, all the knowledge they can to make, reasonable decisions on this. And I don't push anybody to be a minor league fan, but I also, I want to show like the other side of, watching prospects, that's not always, I guess it would be rainbows and gumdrops and lollipops.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer. Let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Finishing off my trip to Gatlinburg, I'm going to have to go with 5 beers here. I usually do 4. But I'm definitely going to have to go with 5, because I don't want to push a Gatlinburg or a Gatlinburg area beer, into something that's local to kind of confuse anybody. When I was down there, I went to Gatlinburg Brewing on Boys Day with my brothers-in-law and my father-in-law, and tried 3 very delicious beers. The first was Gatlinburg's Brewing own GPA Session IPA, coming in at 4.6%. Give that one a 450. Bring it down to 400. The Gaddy Light. I brought a 4-pack of this home, me and my wife. You can't, because we also love the Natty Light just because of the name. So we went with the Gaddy Light, the 5% light beer. Give that a 450 as well. Bring it down to 400. And my favorite beer that I had at Gatlinburg Brewing, and I will say the one thing about Gatlinburg Brewing is they had this open fired stove where it's like the wood burning fire, making wings and pizzas and stuff. Absolutely great food, great atmosphere, good people down there. Was their Breakfast Juice New England IPA, coming in at 6%. A little bit heavier for me. I like to keep my beers usually around below the 6%, but this one, a great tasting beer, paired very well with the wings that I had. Give that one a 475. Bring that down to 425. Another thing that me and the family did with my in-laws and everybody when we were down in Gatlinburg is we went to Anakeesta. It's up on this giant hill. I had to face my fears. You have to either take an open chair or a chandala, which is pretty much just like if you're sitting on the incline, going up the incline in Pittsburgh, but it's basically on the same thing as the chairlift. You go up there, you can see the Smoky Mountains on a 360 view. It's absolutely beautiful. Listen to some live music up there. Me and my brother-in-laws, we both tried Stargazer Hazy IPA from Black Horse Brewing, and maybe it was just the atmosphere, because this one comes in at 7.2, but this was an absolutely delicious beer. 475, bring that down to 425. And we also tried from Tailgate Brewing the Orange Pale Wheat, which was definitely a little bit strange for me because it was almost kind of like a Blue Moon type tasting thing, but it had more of the pale ale taste to it, coming in at 5.1%. Give that one a 450, bring it down to 400. Hopefully, next episode we'll be moving back into the local beers. But until then, let's go Indians. Let's go Curve. Let's go Hoppers. Let's go Marauders. Let's go FCL and DSL Pirates. And anybody that's traveling out to Altoona to see Paul Skeens pitch this Saturday, I hope you guys have a great time.